Alright, so today we'll be working on 11.2 Box and Whisker Plots. This is a little bit confusing, so bear with me. A Box and Whisker Plot shows a variability of data set along a number line, using the least value, the greatest value, and the quartiles of the data. So, just to be clear, this is our least value, the smallest number, and our first quartile is going to be right here, our median is going to be right here, our third quartile is going to be right here, and this is going to be our greatest value. And the reason it's called Box and Whisker Plot is because this is a box right here, and these look like whiskers, right? So the box is right here, and these are the whiskers. So the first quartile and the least value are in that whisker, and here's the second whisker, and this is our box right here. All right. And quartiles divide the data set into 4 equal parts. So here's part 1, here's part 2, part 3, and part 4, right? We have 4 parts, so quartiles. And the median, which is in our second quartile right here, divides this data set into 2 halves. So this is our half right here, right? This is our first half, and this is our second half. Or we also call it the lower half and the upper half, right? And now, the median of the lower half, right, this side, is the median of the lower half is the first quartile, or Q1, right? This is our first quartile. This is the median of the lower half. And the median of the upper half is the third quartile. So this is the median of the upper half. So this might be confusing, so we'll have a practice problem. So the 5 numbers that make up a box and whisker plot are called the 5-number summary of the data set. So the reason it's called 5-number summary is because there's 5 numbers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Our first one's the least value. Our second number is the first quartile, or the median of this half, right? And this is going to be our median for the entire thing. And our third quartile is right here, and this is our greatest value. Alright, so here's an example. So make a box and whisker plot that represents the ages of the members of a backpacking expedition in the mountains. So the first thing we're going to do is put it from least to greatest. Alright, so let's scroll down, put it from least to greatest. So I recommend that you check it off after you use each number, and try to do this by yourself while I do this, pause the video, and see if you got the same answer that I did. So let's go ahead and start now. 18 is going to be our smallest number, so let's go ahead and write that down. Our next smallest number is going to be 22. And we have another 22. This is why it's really important to make sure you check it off, otherwise you might have not noticed one of the numbers. Our next number is going to be 24. The next number is going to be 25, and we have another 25 right here. And we have another 25 right here. And now we have 27 is our next smallest number. And now 28. And then 30. Another 30. Another 30. And this is why it's really important to make sure you check it off after you use it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is figure out what our least value is, right? Our least value, or small, is the smallest number, so 18. So let's write that down. Least value. And our greatest value, or biggest number, is going to be 30. So greatest value. And we're going to figure out what our lower half is and what our upper half is. So let's count how many numbers we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We have 12 numbers here, and let's make sure that we copied over the same number of people here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah. So we have 12 backpackers. Right? So 12 backpackers. And so if we have 12 and we need to figure out what the lower half and the upper half is, how many do you think will be in each group? if we have two groups. There's going to be 6 in each group, right? Let's do this in another color. So that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is going to be where we separate the two. So this will be our lower half. I'm going to write that down. Lower half, and this will be the upper half. Alright, and now from here we're going to divide it even more. And notice how we're doing this in quartiles. Since we're doing quartiles, that means we're going to have 4 groups. And since we have 12 backpackers, 12 divided by 4 is 3. So 3 in each group, or each quartile. 3 in each group. Or you can just divide it in half from the lower half and the upper half, right? Because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so half of 6 is 3 again. So in our first quartile, 1, 2, 3, it's going to be right here in the middle of these two numbers. So first quartile. Let's write this over here. So our first quartile. And the way we figure out the quartile, what the number is that we're going to write for the first quartile, is by taking 22 and 24 and finding what's right in the middle of the two. Right, so what we can do is, let's scroll up over here. We can do 22 plus 24 divided by 2 is equal to 23. Right? If you add those two up and divide by 2, you'll get 23. You may have also noticed that the number that would be in the middle of these two would be 23. So either way is fine. So our first quartile is going to be 23. And now we need to figure out our median, right? 1, 2, 3. So that means our median is going to be right here. And the way I knew it was going to be right here is because, remember, there's 3 in each group. So this is our first group, and this is our second group. So 1, 2, 3. That's how I figured out it would be right over here, right? So this is our median once again. And the median of 25 and 25 is 25. So let's figure out what our third quartile is going to be equal to now. 1, 2, 3. So it's going to be in the middle of these two. So our third quartile. What number is in between 28 and 30? If you're having a hard time with that, we can go ahead and do this up here. 28 plus 30 divided by 2 is equal to 29. So third quartile is equal to 29. Okay, and now this is our grace value. So now we have, let's see here. We're going to box up all of our values that we're going to be used to graph, right? One of the numbers is 18, the other number is 23, 25, 29, and 30. We're going to use these 5 numbers to create our box and whisker plot, right? And this is going to be our 5 number summary. So we're going to create our own version of that. All right. So try to create on your own, see what you struggle with so that you can rewatch the video and practice on your own. Okay. Alrighty. Okay. Now let's separate these up. Alright, so when we create our box and whisker plot, let me put it right in the middle. When you create our box and whisker plot, we're going to not start with 0, right? We're not going to normally we would have 0 in the middle. This time we're not. We're going to start with our least value, right? Our least value is 18. So we're going to start off with 18 and try to make it as evenly spaced as possible. It's a little tough, but if you have graph paper, that would be very useful to use right now. And I would recommend putting in spaces of 2 on graph paper possibly. It's going to be a little tough here since I have no lines to work with. And we're going to end at 30 since that's our greatest value. So then we don't waste any space at all. Oh, not mean to write 30. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. Alright, yes, this is not very evenly spaced. It's a little tough to do it without lines. Alright, so now we're going to create our box and whisker plot. Our smallest number is 18, so we're going to put a dot right here. Our next smallest number is, not smallest number, sorry. Our first quartile is 23, so we're going to put a dot over 23. Just go ahead and put dots everywhere that you see so far. Our next number is 25. Our next number is 29. And lastly, 30. Alright, so now we're going to connect these. Alright. So the first one is going to be our whisker. So it's going to be our line segment right here. That's what we call it a whisker, right? The box and whisker plot. And next, we're going to create a box right here. Okay, and then create another box. And then we're going to do our whisker again. Alright. And that's it. This is our 5-point summary. Our 5-number summary. Right? And this is how you would do it. And if this is a little confusing to you and my work was a little confusing, I have this right here. It's the same information that I presented earlier, just a little bit clearer. Right? And I will be moving on, so pause the video and you can rewatch that part or observe this. And we're going to move on. So in exercise 3 to 8, use the box and whisker plot to find the given measure. So we're going to practice what we've learned. So we're only going to be doing the even ones since the odd ones are going to be for homework. So let's start with number 4. What is the greatest value here? Or also known as the biggest number, right? 14 is our biggest number right here. So let's write that right here. Greatest value. So that's going to be our greatest value right here. Greatest value is equal to 14. And our first quartile is not this one, right? This is our smallest number. This is our first quartile right here. So let's label that first quartile. And lastly, we have our range. So this one's a little tricky. So you might say, oh, the range is 2 to 14, right? The smallest number and the biggest number. Oh, that's not 2 actually. It's a little tricky right there. It's 3 to 14, right? This number should be a 3 right here. And when it asks you for the range, it wants to know how many spaces does it take up pretty much, right? So you would not be putting this up. You would be doing the biggest number minus the smallest number. And that's how wide this is, right? That's the range. 14 minus 3 is equal to 11. So that means our range is 11. And that's it for today. Let me know if you have any questions or need any help on this since it is a little bit confusing.